think that the way that we're able to do our projects is that they're ones that other flippers not necessarily want to touch. They're much longer timeline, they're much more custom. We're not only designing a house we want to live in, but it fits a higher end. It takes a lot longer to do a renovation like that. I know that our jobs aren't necessarily appealing to your standard flipper that will come in and paint everything gray and then get out. We hope that when it's over that this house will look older. We want it to have all of its roots in a historic way of building and have it built to a standard that would have been done in the 1920s and 30s. And we hope that it looks older when we build it. A remodel of a 30s house.
Yes, we are making choices and spending money to go that direction rather than it looking like a new home.
While it might seem like on the surface that we are ripping out character, removing history, and while the 70s is history, it is in the past, we would love to take this house to a early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s American European estate. The French Revival European estate that kind of has the grandeur of those early American homes that you see in Long Island and on the coasts of in Detroit and stuff like that, and bring all that character in here of using the plasterwork, but updating the cabinets, updating the walls and the windows. So we're still staying with a classic European architecture.
We did inset cabinets, which are extremely historical, and we're using unlacquered brass fixtures and plaster walls, and we are painstakingly combing over the details to make sure that this house is very authentic and historical, not whitewashing it, and trying to preserve as much character as we can that is here. It's more taking out the 70s and 90s. We're also opening up quite a bit. There was so much heavy drapery, which was very cool and beautiful. It was just so heavy and a bit suffocating to the house. Once we got even that down, it just felt like the house needed to breathe. Open up the windows and all the natural light that we've already allowed in. I know a lot of people were against us moving the kitchen, but it's just wild opening up that wall and adding new windows. There's just a ton of light that comes into the whole space now and allows the entire interior of the house to breathe. We're here to respect what he did also and to keep some of the character that he had here.
His moldings and his trim.
He had a beautiful eye also for European architecture and clearly antiques.
What are you keeping?
Most of the moldings, the plaster, everything that could be saved that wasn't damaged, plumbing wise, electrical wise, is staying. A lot of the fireplaces and surrounds are staying.
A lot of chandeliers are staying.
Yes, a lot are staying. The main foyer chandelier, a lot of the fixtures. My mom and I spent weeks collecting all the brass handles and fixtures around the house and stored them in the basement so that we can reuse and keep those in the house. Yep. Okay, so this is kind of my closet that I have gone through the house while we were demoing and saved all of the brass fixtures. That's doorknobs, cabinet pulls, and towel racks and everything. There was so many solid brass that we've come down here to store them all. My mom went through and labeled everything to make sure that we know what went where, if we do want to end up reusing things, or if not, then we can obviously keep and repurpose on other projects. I love brass. It's beautiful and it's a great material. It's expensive and it stands the test of time. It's very traditional. It's just beautiful. We found a ton unused. So keeping those again, if we can repurpose or switch them out if some are not great anymore, we'll see.
You're reusing as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to keep as much as we can possible here.
I think that the way that we're able to do our projects is that they're ones that other flippers not necessarily want to touch. They're much longer timeline, they're much more custom. A lot of flippers will want to come in and they will buy cash, renovate very, very quickly. It'll be a very quick demo, paint,
inexpensive products,
inexpensive
finishes,
cabinets, quick, and then they're done and sold in 3 months. And ours take like a year or two. We're not only designing a house we want to live in, but it fits a higher end. We're ordering custom cabinets. We're doing flooring. It takes a lot longer to do a renovation like that. I know that our jobs aren't necessarily appealing to your standard flipper that will come in and paint everything gray and then get out.
So in the beginning, we took what we were told was French silk off the wall in this room. We're in the music room. It's pink silk and the drapes were always drawn in this room to protect it. My mom is a seamstress, has always worked with fabric. When we were working with it, she's like, I don't think this is silk. And as we were taking off the puffy fabric, we got under it, there's imported French silk wallpaper underneath the not French silk fabric.
Silk wallpaper.
Oh my God. That was kind of cool. So we uncovered raw silk on the walls.
It's in rough shape.
Yeah, it is in rough shape. Unfortunately, we aren't taking it down, and it's going to be underneath paneling eventually, so it'll still be there. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not repairable, unfortunately. We're on the first floor ensuite right now, right off the music room. This is one of very few spaces that I'm able to save the wallpaper that was underneath all the fabric and the batten. This is kind of like going to keep a lot of its originality and go back to what it was originally without all the fabric on top. We found some really interesting wallpaper in a couple of the rooms. There's some of it we are trying to see if we can salvage and save. It's in a lot of rough shape, but it's in a lot of these rooms that have the puffy fabric walls. It's not just this room, the entire house was this puffy fabric.
I've really looked back to see how hard we were gonna get hit with taking off the silk walls, and I can't find any historical precedent for it. My best guess is that he's trying to imitate tapestries, maybe? Like when you used to have castles and you'd hang tapestries to block drafts. Maybe it's just an aesthetic.
With the public looking at us and the comments that are made, obviously you have to brush that off, but when people make comments about us taking out the character and that we're ruining this, he brushes it off and is like, whatever, but it does hurt my feelings. I cried in this room because this has to be done. It's not going to work the way that it is, but this room felt like a Disney princess magic room, and I had to take this fabric down. It was painful, and there's certain things, but also we remember that this was built in the 70s. This wasn't built in the early 1900s, and it doesn't have that historic value necessarily, but yes, the craftsmanship and things, it does matter to both of us for sure, but there's things that have to be done here, definitely. We got a lot of slack for the ceiling that we had to take down in the kitchen area. The one area it looked like a sky with twinkle lights in it, and then the other area was like another plaster ceiling. It was leaking above.
Covered in mold.
Yeah, from a bathroom above it, and there was mold coming through, and we have to make decisions as contractors also.
We get a lot of, oh, well, at least it has good bones. You have a lot to work with. And I agree. He did some incredible things with the house that probably had not been done, but it is very much 70s technology. There was a time and place when we built houses before World War II that things did have good bones. Unfortunately, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was a bunch of new technology. We look back now and it doesn't look great, it doesn't work as well. And that's kind of the case with this house. Some of the decisions being made with framing or electrical or plumbing were right at the time. But in 2024, they're no longer the best practice for how to build a house.
They're not going to pass code.
They're not going to pass code. Some walls kind of in between framing members, loads not being transferred down to the basement. So gravity will eventually win. It will come through the floor. So we have to just put beams everywhere to support it. Pipes just not being soldered correctly and having water leak through them. The electrical not working at all anymore, which was great technology for the 70s, terrible technology for the 2020s. It did have good bones in the sense that he put incredible amounts of time and effort into building this house, but when we go to live in it in a modern way, and not making it a modern home, but to live in it modernly with air quality and water quality and insulation quality, things needed to be updated so that it lasted another 50 years, but it lasted another 100 years. If we didn't come in and fix some of these things, it would have been a huge problem down the road. It would have sat and rotted, and things that were moldy would have been painted over, it would have spread, and water would have continued to leak.
And that was already beginning to happen at the point.
Definitely beginning to happen. So everything our framers kind of picked up, when they're here framing, I hear my name being called from the other room, and I know that there's something else that needs to be reframed. There's something else that needs to be supported. I need to go down and order 15 more LVLs to support the ceiling and the roof and the wall that was just kind of floating on plywood. There were a couple areas where we knew that. We were going to go down to studs because the only way to do it correctly is to go down to studs and start over. Some of our contractors and plumbers and electricians, they're not gonna just haphazardly put things together. They wanna start at the source and redo the plumbing all the way to where the end fixture is, which means some of the nice, pretty walls have to be taken out.
How many bathrooms will it have in the end?
I think 8.
8 bedrooms, 8 baths.
I think so.
Our stone and marble company that we've always used, Genesee Cut Stone, actually did the original stone in this house. So they did all the bathtubs and the showers and the original countertops and the fireplaces. So they're going to be coming in and
redoing all the countertops.
They're doing our new stuff, and then also coming anything that we kept, any of the showers or tubs, they're going to be reglazing and resealing their work that they did in the 70s. So that's kind of fun. This is a company that we've worked with for years. So we have a great relationship with them, and they're excited to work with us on this.
What's the most hate you got from one of your posts?
I shared a rendition of a render of the kitchen space. Very short snippet, and man, people came after us for it. That's where all the whitewashing that we were making this modern house and ruining this house, they came for us in the comments.
It has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, for the most part. We're pretty confident in what we're doing here.
I mean, I've seen professional, world-renowned architects design rooms that just get hate.
Everyone has their own style. Everyone's going to have their own take on what we're doing and what this house started as. So we get that.
I had never envisioned ourselves living here. It's not a possibility with how we bought it.
I don't think we've ever considered that.
It's a very, very cool job site, though. It is very cool to have lunch and just like look out over 50 acres.
Because you get caught up. We're in the middle of this project and it's the job site. You're very focused, and I make myself step back and look at it and like, holy crap, it's ours. That's a very weird feeling. I think we'll always look back at this as a really cool section of our lives and thing that we did. I'm not sure how like we were a part of this and we do this and then we have to leave it again.